Demi Lovato, here all night. Let's talk about it. How y'all doing? Welcome to Let's Talk About Music Reviews Season 11. How y'all doing? Welcome to the show. Guys, we got a good episode for you today. I'm back doing some music reviews. This is the last one, for a couple of days. We're going to be going back to the NFL, guys, on Sunday and Monday. But I wanted to come back on here and talk about another song. There was some songs that dropped. Quite a lot of them that I really don't care about. We had some Drake. We had some, I guess we got Demi Lovato. That's what we're doing today. I was scrolling on the YouTube release thing. I was really trying to find a song, a good one to review for y'all. I want to put on a good episode for y'all. And then I couldn't even find one. So we got Demi Lovato here all night. Demi Lovato is a very interesting artist. We've been reviewing her music since 2021, around the 2022 time. She's all had her different, eras, her, I guess her transformations, from going from a they, then, them, then going back to a woman, doing some rock music, going to some, I don't know what she's doing, I guess she's like, the new generation of people, you just don't know what people are doing these days. And that's the same thing here, but Demi Lovato's back to her roots, back to, who she knows, and she's back to making pop music. And I'll be real, guys, if you want to make some pop music, you need to, pick it up, you need to add something to it, when you just say, I'm going to go back to pop music, but I'm going to go back to the 80s sound of pop music, and that's kind of it. You need to add your own flair to it. And, at least, Doja Cat's doing this 80s, type music too. But at least she's, putting some more effort into that instrumental, putting more effort into the, some vocal switch-ups, some flow switch-ups, etc. I listened to Demi Lovato today, guys, and I just go, wow, the 80s type music is really going down. There's been this whole thing in the 2020s where artists, like to steal eras. They like to look at the 80s, they go, oh, I like the sounds of the 80s, let's do that and kind of make it my own thing. It's really hard to make that your own thing, to be real with you, because it's such a distinct sound, and the people look at the 90s, they go, oh, I like the 90s sound, let me take that, steal that. See a lot of boom bap rappers today in the 2020s love to copy the old days of rap. And then, you see the 2000s R&B sound, that's been copied. I'd say that's been copied pretty less. It's been a lot of 2000s, like, club songs that have been really sampled. Or, like, some SoundCloud songs, or some songs, back in the day from, like, Soulja Boy, songs like that. So, I just don't know how to feel about these different type of eras when you absolutely do nothing about it. So Demi Lovato, here all night. Let's talk about the beat. Starting off with this beat. This beat is basic as hell. I mean, it's so basic. I was rolling my eyes listening to this goddamn song. I mean, guys, what are we doing here? Drums stay the same throughout the whole entire song. The bass. The bass is so, like, low on the mixing that I can barely hear. It's this, like, wavy, kind of synthy-like bass, but, it just doesn't have any personality to it. It doesn't really have a sound to it, It feels like I'm just listening to, quick, let me look up a EDM beat. And that EDM beat from the bass, the synth bass, etc., all those things, you just like, what the fuck am I listening to? This feels like loops. This feels like synth bass loops and synth drums that are just spliced together. And then you just got like a 1 minute beat that just goes over and over and over again. The beat stops for a minute. But like I say for Drake, and I say for all these other artists, stopping the beat is not, it doesn't do anything, it's not a switch up. You can't stop the beat and, say that's a switch up, in my opinion, it just doesn't work like that. And, when you try to add switch ups, like vocal switch ups, background vocals, etc. But yeah, I just can't believe that I listened to a song that, in my opinion, just, has nothing to it with the drums, with the bass, and the synths too. You know, the whole thing about the 80s instrumental, the 80s beat, is the synths. And the synths sound basic as hell. I mean, guys, I'm trying my best here to, like, give y'all something. But when your synths are only, like, a 3-second loop that sounds the same throughout the whole 3-minute track, we're going to have a problem here. You know, it's going to be too basic. You know, somebody, whoever produced this song, you know, needs to go back into the lab and probably get fired. You know, because they didn't do their job right. Because what I hear is just fucking terrible. I mean, I'd rather put a gun to my head than, you know, listen to this beat on loop. It just sounds so boring as hell. Now, let's get into Demi Lovato, because she is, you know, mostly in the song. I'll say this, guys. The beginning verse is just okay. You know, I don't like the vocal style. You know, she's trying to do these, you know, techno, high-pitched vocals. You know what it makes you sound like? It just makes you sound, you know, like a chickmunk. And I'll be real, guys. I've grown up in my life, and I don't want to listen to somebody singing like a goddamn chickmunk. I mean, grow up, you know, stop being scared of your vocals. Just because you sound terrible on an 80s type beat, you know, don't be scared to show your vocals off. I mean, all these other artists have not been doing that. You know, at least when Doja Cat was doing these higher pitched vocals, she was actually singing. You know, this is not singing. This is like a terrible ass flow that she's, you know, going way too fast. So she's like off beat throughout the whole entire song. And then she switches back and gets back with this, like, you know, trying to do this strong, powerful hook. And it just doesn't hit the same. You know, there's no background vocals. There's nothing like that to really help it stand out. And when I listen to this song, guys, in my opinion, I just can't really get behind this hook. The background vocals are annoying. Not the background vocals. I wish there was background vocals. The vocals are goddamn annoying. The hook vocals are annoying. The powerful singing doesn't hit. And she tries to do this, you know, ending, you know, high note run. But you can tell she barely knows how to do it, because she does it for barely a couple of seconds. She can't even hold it out. It's already over. You know, so that is also not very good. Like, this is like some, like, off-brand, like, diet version of what Doja Cat tried to do last week. And I just gonna be real, guys, I just don't really like it that much. So, Demi Lovato, you know, Here All Night. This song is pretty boring. You know, the beat's pretty boring. The vocals sound terrible. You know, and then the hook vocals sound, you know, absolutely abysmal. I'll just be real, guys. This song kind of sucks. And I'd be embarrassed if I made this. You know, whoever produced this song, whoever produced these vocals, they should probably get fired. Overall, guys, I'm going to give this song probably just like a 4 out of 10. 4 out of 10, guys. What y'all think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? I don't know. Let me know. If you're on YouTube, Spotify, Pandora, wherever you get your podcast at, make sure you follow, turn on notifications, guys. We're dropping new content every single day. Thank God football's coming back tomorrow. You know, I get reminded every day why I don't do this shit anymore. Alright, guys. Bye.